Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's Sunday Social. We've got Shreyas and Sam on the camera. So how can this day get any better? I'll tell you how this day can get better. We've got plenty of news stories to get into, including, I can't say his first name, Eze. The way is it Eberiche? Eberiche Eze?
Eberiche Eze, I think.
That's him. We're going to talk about him, potential move to United in 2025. We're going to talk about Edin Terzic, the former coach of Borussia Dortmund, being linked with the United job. Thomas Tuchel, some extra news and bits coming out on him, and also the INEOS youth structure. Some really nice things and positive stuff coming out from that side when the club's in a little bit of a mess, I would say, especially on the pitch. So yeah, we'll get into that towards the end. But let's kick it off with Eze, lads, because this is the latest transfer news and probably the biggest story we've had since the window closed, I'd say, potentially. So this is coming from Fabrizio Romano on his YouTube channel, saying that Manchester United want to sign a new winger in 2025, and Crystal Palace is Eberiche Eze is one of the players that they've been scouting. His release clause is in the region of £60 million. Shreyas, why should we sign him and why should we not? What are the pros and cons that come with Eze, do you think?
I think by the time the window actually ended, it was being rumored a lot that United will go in for Eze in the upcoming windows. He was a name that was being pulled about a lot after Olise moved to Bayern. And look, when it comes to having that unpredictableness, he's a very good, I would say a 10 as well as a winger. He does a brilliant job at Palace in that role. And if this move actually happens, if he does end up moving to United, I think it would be a good move because he brings something very, very different to what Garnacho brings or what Marcus Rashford actually brings to the table. And he's not a person who's confined to a single position. He can, work around that entire attacking line. He's a very good creative playmaker. You've got there, whether it is as a 10 or whether it is as, from the right hand side or from the left hand side. And whoever is playing up top, when Eze is playing, they have a very good time ahead of goal. I still remember last season when Mateta, Olise, and Eze had the triangle up top, and Mateta scored like 15 to 16 goals by the time the season actually ended. I think it would be a good move. Whether it will happen or not, because I still think that a lot of people would be running for Eze next season. There will be a lot of competition, and signing him does actually come down to the fact where we will end up finishing this season as well. Because if we end up finishing like an 8th or 7th again this season, and then you've got clubs like, I would even say Brighton or even Newcastle who are finishing ahead of us in 5th or 6th, it does put us in a big disadvantage when it comes to going for players like Eze. But I think it would be a good move because people still need to understand what type of a winger he is, because if he comes in, you cannot expect like 20 goals a season from Eze. He's not that sort of a winger. He's more of an assist creator. He's more of a build-up play creator sort of a player. And he's one person who actually knows how to take care of the ball and retain possession while you're in the attacking half. And I think with the manager that we've got at the moment, he would really be helpful.
It's very interesting. Can he play left back though, Sam? That's the question.
I mean, he's probably going to have to at this point, isn't he, if he comes in? Because I don't see Luke Shaw getting fit anytime soon. And Terrell Malacia, do we know how long? No. I looked at his stats. I've just looked at his stats. So last season, he got 11 goals and then 6 assists in all competitions.
It's good.
So,
good return.
Not bad. Not a bad return. There's a bit of an injury worry there. He only played 27 games last season out of a possible like 30 odd. So he missed 10 games in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a worry because we know we've got a couple of injury-prone players. The season before, 22-23, he played 38 games. So he played every single game, and he got 10 goals, 4 assists in the league. So, again, when he's consistent, he seems to be all right. It seems to be not a bad return in terms of a winger. But he is, 27, 26 at this point?
Yeah, I was about to say, does age come into it? Because I look at it, and I think that would be a slight concern. But then I also look at like a transfer like Trossard to Arsenal. 30 million quid. I'm sure he's a similar age, if not older.
Yep.
And the impact that he's had in their team. And if that's a similar impact, it's replicated, then I'd be happy with that.
He cost 30 million though, didn't he?
Yeah, it's half the price that it's costing, yeah.
So 30 million at 27, I'd be like, okay, I'll take a punt on that. But 60 million for a 27-year-old with stats like that, bit of an injury concern, that worries me. That's kind of a worry for me. Like, I don't want to spend that kind of money. If we can negotiate the price, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Sell Anthony, get him off the books, replace him with Eze. I'd be all right with that. I'd be happy with that. You've got obviously Ahmad still there, Garnacho, Rashford, and then you've got people coming through as well. Like you've got Chido Martin who could play on the wings, can't he? He's a striker, but he could play on the wings as well. So you've got people there who could sort of potentially play. Shea Lacey's coming through, people like that. So I think we've got stacks there, but we do need somebody with experience, somebody who knows the league. I think it'd be a good option if the price is right. 60 million, I just think is far too much for a player like this.
The question is though, our wingers right now, are they good enough? Like it's all good saying that we've got Garnacho and Ahmad and Rashford
On paper,
and
on paper they are, and we know they've got the talent because we've seen it. It's just currently the system or the manager, whatever it is stopping these players from performing. Mentality. We talked about mentality yesterday, didn't we? Like, is it that? Does Eze have that mentality? We've seen a lot of players, like we saw Zaha come from Palace United, couldn't cut it, had to go back. It's that we need that mentality, man, and whether he's got it or not, I don't know.
I think we overrate our wingers slightly, Shreyas. I don't know what your take is on this, but I don't know. I think we really put them on a pedestal, and I think they're better than what they are. The levels that they've shown, I think Rashford out of them all, really, the 30 goals a season. But bar that, is enough that you've seen to put enough faith in him going forward for the next couple of years?
I think this is the deciding year for most of these guys, because with Rashford, if the only credibility that he's got in the bank right now is that he has had 20 goals and 30 goal seasons before, this entire stint. And when it comes to like Sam mentioned as well, on paper, we've got a very good set of young wingers out there with Ahmad coming through. You've got Garnacho coming through. You've got Rashford there as well, and you've got other players who can pitch in and do a job in those winger areas as well. But when it comes to having that output on the pitch, at the moment we are genuinely lacking, because if you take into consideration the first 10 games of the season that we've had, it's not looking good when it comes to the amount of goals that we've actually scored. And with the type of chances that we've created, you would expect our wingers as well as even say our strikers to have a better output than what we've actually had. And one thing with Garnacho and Rashford is we've got different profiles for sure, but they are direct wingers. If they're not scoring goals, the only way that they are effective is when they're scoring goals. If they're not scoring goals, they're not really bringing anything else to the table. With Ahmad, another thing that is actually decent is if he's not able to provide with goals, he's still able to help out in the build-up play. He's still able to retain possession and create chances out from that right-hand side. But with Garnacho and Rashford, it's way too direct. So if they're not getting on the score sheet, they're just not being able to contribute to the team at all.
Yeah, I like Eze as a player, but I do think you make a good point about the Zaha thing. Sam, obviously coming to United didn't work out, but then he was unbelievable for Palace, and also probably their best player ever in Palace's history. So at least one of them who's up there. So I don't know. It is a weird kind of transfer period, but then we can say that about any single player who comes to United is going to struggle about the pressure, or like all of our signings that we made at the minute, arguably Ugarte, De Ligt, Xerxes are all struggling a little bit in the wind, the Man United wind. So I don't know.
Until we sort out that mentality thing, whatever it is like we spoke about yesterday, because Benny McCarthy mentioned, if he missed it, he mentioned in training everybody looks amazing and it's like insane. And then they get to match day and then they go, "What the fuck was that?" And they're shocked at the performances. So obviously something is going on, and it's affecting new players, it's older players, it's affecting everybody who comes to the club. So whatever that issue is, they need to figure that out and fix it like quickly, because like you said, if that's not fixed, Eze will come in, he'll look good for 4 minutes, 4 games, and then he'll just fall off and everybody will be going, "Oh, what a shit buy that is." And it'll be the same pattern.
Yeah, agreed. Big up everyone who's joining us in the chat. Smash like the video for us. It's Sunday Social, which is like the flagship show. Always love these kind of shows when everyone gets involved. So let's see what people are saying. Sean's saying, as much as I like Ahmad, I wish we'd have got Elise in right wing. Would be set for a decade. I mean, Elise, to be fair, you see what he's doing at
Bayern.
Bayern is unbelievable. But again, it's the budget. We didn't buy a left back because we didn't have the budget for it. Yeah. So
would he be that good for us though? I don't think so.
It's quite different when you're playing for a Bayern Munich and when you're playing for this Manchester United team at the moment.
A lot of mixed reviews on Eze. Some people saying no. Some people saying very big talent. He'd be a good replacement for Ericsson. Not the same position. Dwight McNeil is better. You know what, Box? I swear to God, I like Dwight McNeil. I'm not even joking. When I watch him for Everton, his technical ability is right up there. And you look at his stats this season, in an Everton team that's been struggling, he's good. I'm not saying you actually go and buy him, but I legit like him. I do think he's a really, really good player.
He puts balls into the box, and think of how many goals Højlund might score if we stuck some balls into the fucking box occasionally. Like having a cross like that and putting the ball onto his head or in front of him. I think he scores goals, doesn't he? We just don't have a winger who does that.
Some people mentioned about sound cutting in and out. I don't know.
I think it was on their end, so people have come back in and then gone back out, and it seems to have fixed it. Okay. So I think it's all good. Cool.
Sean saying, rather than buying 2-3 good players, I prefer quality over quantity and just buy one that is another level. Dwight McNeil has to be David Blaine's secret son. He's a spitting image of him. Stephanie Bester, Lumen, 10 again. It's all right, sorted, yeah. Right, let's go back to the topic. We'll move on from Eberiche Eze to Edin Terzic. The shock name apparently is from Reluctant Nico, who, if I was to describe it as a sauce, I would probably say Worcester sauce in the cupboard. It's a shit sauce, but nonetheless, is that how you say it, Sam? Worcester
sauce. I like Worcestershire sauce. I like it.
Oh, of course you do.
Just saying.
Of course you do.
Just saying.
Well, you might like this this report then. So, Edin Terzic is a shock name on Man United's shortlist to replace Erik ten Hag. He has many admirers at Old Trafford. A coach who, if you've done, your due diligence on this guy, Gegenpress, works really well with young players. I mean, you've seen all the talent that's been at Dortmund. Man management is absolutely fantastic. He doesn't have necessarily a set system. He can be flexible in his approach. Is this a guy we should consider? Because we've spoken about Tuchel, but we've spoken about Southgate, although I know everyone's thoughts are very clear on Southgate. What about Edin Terzic? Why is he not mentioned more, Shreyas?
I think one of the reasons is when it comes to his time at Dortmund, he accomplished a lot. He got them to the Champions League final as well. Certain players that were, I would say, written off before, he was able to, actually maximize them in that Champions League run. Players like Sabitzer, players like Sula as well did quite decent, in that timeline. And young
Sancho?
players, young Sancho, in that game against PSG had a decent outing.
Yeah.
But youngsters as well, like you mentioned, Nico Schlotterbeck has been amazing under Terzic in that timeline. He's been really, really good. And players like Bino Gittins and other players who've been coming through have been doing a very, very decent job for Dortmund. And I think he had a falling out with Hummels during that campaign, which was being reported out a lot, that when it comes to, working with experienced players or these veteran players, he wasn't really able to, accomplish that quite well during his time at Dortmund. But he is one name that could be considered, because I'm not sure whether, he'll be able to do what he did at Dortmund at Manchester United. But with the names that are being put out right now, you would rank him nearer to Tuchel than what you would rank Gareth Southgate or Graham Potter. And maybe, we need this sort of a... One thing about him is that with the kind of profiles of players that we've got at the moment, Højlund young, Xerxes young, Garnacho, Ahmad, Mainu, all of these players are very, very young. So he can actually get the best out of them. He knows how to work with these sort of players and actually assemble a team with these many young profiles. And once again, at the moment, I would say he'd be a bigger gamble than Thomas Tuchel, but would be a much safer gamble if you have to compare it to Southgate or Graham Potter.
I was going to say long term as well, potentially.
Yeah.
Like you said, because of the young players. I suppose, Sam, it's similar to Ruben Amorim, isn't it? Someone who prioritizes attacking football, good with young players, adaptable, but then at the same time, the same kind of not top tier experience, because he's been in the Champions League final, I suppose. And I don't know if he's won a league title with it, but the last day he lost in it. It was was it obviously Bellingham.
I think they were winning, weren't they? And they had to just sort of draw or win the game, and then they ended up losing the last minute, which meant Bayern got the title.
Yeah, it's such fine margins in football. But I mean, if he's There was a lot being said about Ten Hag taking Ajax to semi-final in the Champions League. That Dortmund team, I don't think it's not. In my personal opinion, I don't think it was Champions League final worth it.
No.
So he can obviously squeeze more juice out of the team than needs be, and I think what we need is a bit of a squeeze, don't we?
Yeah, I think again we spoke about Amarin yesterday. I think Terzic is a good manager. I think he's got a lot of qualities that I think would be great for Manchester United. Like we said, with youth development and working with certain players. But again, is this just a sideways step? Because on paper, his CV is less than what Ten Hag's was. So say Ten Hag was available and he hadn't managed United yet, you'd look at Ten Hag's CV and you'd look at Terzic's CV and you'd go, Ten Hag's the better option. Same with Amarin.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very similar thing. So it's like, is it just a sideways step? And we're just hoping that maybe this one fixes things. Maybe this is the manager that comes in and does things. I know you can't just stick with the manager just because the other options aren't as appetizing. But again, I'm like, is this the guy where, like, there's not been a manager apart from Nagelsmann where I've looked at him and gone, yes, he'll fix a lot of stuff. And Terzic again is not that guy. I think he's got a lot of good qualities and he could work. I know Chivy's a massive fan of his. I know he could work, but again, he's like, is it just a side off? Like, is it just a sideways step at this point? I don't know.
Well, we're going to stick with managers who have managed at Dortmund. There's been some reports over the weekend, that Thomas Tuchel with England and other clubs and da. And according to Miguel Delaney, who I think is the chief correspondent for the Independent kind of outlet, saying this is seen as an attempt by those close to the German to put pressure on United to basically go and hire him. I just seen a stat on him as well, Shreyas. Chelsea picked up 122 points from 63 Premier League matches under Tuchel, with only Pep City and Klopp's Liverpool picking up more during that time. You mentioned Tuchel before. What's the risk and reward with this? Like, when you weigh up the pros and cons and you look at both sides of the argument, the balance, what is it in your mind?
I think the only risk is whether, he'll be able to blend in with the team and blend in with the players or not. And he's able to avoid fallouts with the players, because during his time at Bayern, he fell out with a lot of players like Kimmich, players like Goretzka, your Thomas Mullers, every single one of these players he fell out with. That's why it actually caused a big issue in that dressing room. And Bayern had a very, I would say, to compare to what Bayern has done over the years, they had a very terrible season last time. So, but in comparison to that, if you look at his time at Chelsea, he was able to blend in very decently with the players. He was able to get the best out of these players as well, who were brought in for big fees. Was able to revitalize that defense that Chelsea had and made that defense pretty much the best in the Premier League for quite some time. And was able to actually get a lot of convincing wins, not just against the big teams, but against teams in the lower half of the table as well. Chelsea were able to beat that teams quite convincingly and comfortably. So even when he left, the major reason for Tuchel leaving Chelsea was the new ownership that had come in, and they wanted they wanted their own model, and they wanted their own manager to be there. That's the reason why he actually left Chelsea, because when he actually left, there wasn't even a single Chelsea fan who actually wanted Tuchel to leave. They all wanted him to continue. So the risk is definitely there, whether he'll come in and be able to blend in with these players. The reward for sure is that if he comes in and if he gets it right, there won't even be a conversation where you have to go and say he needs 2 to 3 seasons to actually, make top 4 and get us consistently finishing against the likes of Liverpool and the likes of City. He'll be able to elevate this team in a shorter period of time, because he knows how to work with these sort of teams. And because he's managed these big clubs, he's managed Dortmund before, he's managed PSG, he's managed Chelsea and Bayern Munich. So he knows what kind of standards these type of clubs actually demand. He knows how to, manage the big egos as well. He's worked with Mbappe and Neymar at PSG. He's worked with the likes of, you can call it Harry Kane, Musiala, and all of these players. So the big players who are there, who are being regarded as, the next big things or the world-class players, he's worked with them before. So if he comes in here, maybe he's able to, I would say, work on most of the issues that we are having at the moment. And he's very flexible when it comes to his formation as well. So one thing that is being regarded with Ten Hag a lot, that he's very stubborn when it comes to his systems. If you compare it to Tuchel, he's very flexible. He can One game he can go with a back five, one game he can go with a back four. He keeps on shifting his systems a lot.
What I'm fascinated by, Sam, is I don't know the if you was to get every drop out of these players and squeeze the orange as much as you can. Let's say Tuchel did come in and did that.
Yeah.
How high can this team get? Does that make sense?
What's the ceiling on this team? I think.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like, are we really as bad as what we're seeing, or are we a top 4 team, or can we really compete in Europe with the quality?
I don't think we're as bad as we're seeing. I can't believe that because it has been terrible. I think the ceiling's probably a top 4, top 5 team. I think that's where we are in reality. Are we better than City or Arsenal? I don't think so. Are we better than Liverpool at this point in time? I wouldn't say
on
so.
paper, are we talking like the players that we've got?
Yeah, on paper, I wouldn't say so either. Are we as good as like the likes of Chelsea, Spurs, that kind of thing? I think we are. I think we've got similar squad profiles, and I think we can compete with those things at our top and at our best. If you look at that Europa League and look at those teams, and then look at our team, we should be beating pretty much 90% of that team. I know there's some tricky teams in there, like Roma is always a tricky game, and Fenerbahce away, that kind of stuff. It's always tricky, but on paper, we should be beating all of these teams. Like, this should be the easiest run ever to like a European quarterfinal, semi-final. Like, I know things happen along the way, but let's be honest, like, we should be getting through this. And then I think, anywhere from like 4th to about 8th is where we sort of sit, I think. So at our best, we can finish 4th. At our worst, we're probably going to be about 8th or 9th, aren't we? That's where I see us. But I think a manager can only take us so far. I think a top manager will get us to 4th. I think to get over that next bit, to get into the Championship, we need a couple of world-class players. We need a Rodri. We need a Haaland, like a lethal striker. We need those type of players to sort of take. We need a Mohamed Salah who every season shows up and scores 30 goals. I don't think we have any of those players. And I think that's what we need to take us over to the next bit.
That's what I was just about to touch on then. I don't think we have that talisman in a minute. Like what I do for Cole Palmer right now, who guaranteed every game he's going to get an assist or he's going to affect the game, he's going to get a goal. We don't have it. People want to put Marcus Rashford on that pedestal, but
he's not that guy.
He doesn't deliver enough consistently to do that.
It's too early. Sorry, Nick. It's too early for Højlund. Like, he's got talent. It's too early for him. Garnacho, it's too early. Inconsistency is still like too early. Kobbie Mainoo, as much as I love the guy, again, it's too early to say like this guy's going to be world class. All our players have got a lot of our players have got the potential to hit that level, and some of our players have been overrated to the point of like Marcus Rashford, where people think they're better than they are. And then other players like Cole Palmer, like you mentioned, have stepped up and just took it bull by the horns. Mohamed Salah every season is just showing up. People were saying, "Oh, Haaland, it's a one-season wonder." He's just consistently showing up. Rodri just consistently showing up. Players like that every season, they show up and they perform. A lot of our experienced players aren't doing that, and then a lot of our young players haven't reached that level yet.
I thought it was interesting, Shreyas, what Benny McCarthy said about Marcus Rashford. I don't know if you saw the quotes, but he basically said that everyone kind of tells him what he wants to hear, and he was the only coach who told him different or told give it to him straight. And apparently, really, really appreciated that. And that kind of tells us about the culture there, what's going on at the minute, doesn't it? Like, because he is put on that pedestal, he is from Manchester, academy product. He's put up such a high levels before, but he shouldn't be considered the talisman, should he, in this team?
No, because I think Ten Hag and a lot of people actually wanted him to become that sort of a figure after he had that 30-goal season. And when the time actually came for him to step up and actually, be that senior figure, be that focal point in the attack, someone who can lead this attack, because every other player would actually, in that moment would have, looked at Marcus Rashford to actually lead the line, but he wasn't really able to do that. Last season, it was Garnacho who stepped up. It was Højlund who stepped up in the second half of the season as well, but Rashford wasn't able to do that job for us. And even now, I would say, even if Rashford goes on to score 20 to 25 goals this season, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But you cannot you cannot count on him to be that consistent figure who can do that job for you week in and week out. He's just not able to do it. As a supporting player, in a supporting role, I think he can still do a very decent job because he's got the capability to perform for United. But to be that person who, when when we look at Liverpool's team, the first name that comes to our mind is Mohamed Salah. When we look at that City team, the first name that comes to our mind is Erling Haaland. Rashford cannot be that guy for us. So, and it's just the harsh truth that he cannot be that guy for us. I hope he can become a consistent figure, but we've been asking for him to have these sort of consistent performances for like 4 to 5 years now. It's never been a case where Rashford has been able to I would say elevate his performances from one season in the upcoming year. It has never really happened. So moving forward, if you want to have that sort of a figure who can, get you 20 to 25 goals a season every single year, no matter how the team is actually performing, they can step up and do that job for you. They need to, move aside from Marcus Rashford and look at alternative options.
Yeah. I mean, Bruno's been mentioned there by Steph saying should be doing what Palmer's doing, or has he been worked out or starting his decline? Just a bad patch for Bruno, do we think, lads, at the minute?
Yeah, I think the system is not helping him.
Yeah.
I think Bruno thrives on a counter-attack, chaotic style, one-touch, bang out of his feet. He likes the flicks, he likes the back heels, through balls.
But where's the longevity in that?
But that's why Ollie brought him in, wasn't it? Like, that was the style he was playing, so he brought him in, and we saw how effective he was within those first couple.
So can he, if we brought in a Tuchel, can he thrive?
It depends on the system. Whatever the system is currently, it's not working for pretty much all of our players. Like, it's just not working, is it? Like, it's not getting the best out of Højlund because we're playing two selfish wingers. It's not getting the best out of Bruno. It's leaving whoever plays in the six massively exposed. So it doesn't matter if it's Casemiro or Ugarte.
Yeah.
They're all playing like terrible. Our defense is then being exposed because of the same thing. The fullbacks, because they're inverting and leaving space there, so they look terrible. So the whole system is just affecting every single player that's looked previously quite good. When we had that original system with Leacher and Varane, and then we had Casemiro Eriksson with the more pragmatic counter-attack system the first season Ten Hag came in, it looked really effective and we did really well with it. And these are the same players, and it's like we've changed. He's tried to change the system, and it's just not working. And he's refusing to adapt and go, okay, what is the best I can get out of these players? Like, a good manager has principles, but he looks at the players he's got and goes, are these players capable of playing this style? Are they capable of like doing what I want them to do? If not, you have to tweak it and you have to change it. And that's what he needs to do. Like, we haven't got the endless riches of City where Pep can spend 80 million on a centre back and go, nah, he's not good enough, get rid of him, get the next one in. We haven't got that. So he needs to make use of the players we have. And I just don't think he's doing that. And I think Bruno has been caught up in that. And I think we've talked about this before. His diminishing returns, when he feels like he's not affecting the game enough, he then goes into that try-hard mode, doesn't he? Where he's just legging it about the pitch, trying to make tackles and trying to make things happen, which then is actually a contradiction to helping the team, because he's trying to help the team by trying hard, but then he's actually affecting and making the team worse by doing that when he should be like doing the things he's good at. So I think it's a lot of things going on there. I don't think it's just Bruno's fault, because we see him when he plays for Portugal. He's fantastic. Yeah. He looks excellent.
Last night as well.
Yeah.
He was man of the match last night.
Like, how many players go away with it? I know you've said before, Nick, international football is different, slower and stuff. But how many players go away to the international duty and look way better than they do for United? Every time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think confused is the word to use with these players and team. I just don't know. You honestly don't know what you're going to get from him, because they can be unbelievable sometimes. And sometimes you watch him and you almost feel like an idiot for praising him so much during the time. When we were talking about his contracts, when you look back at that, I mean, you're like, and now he's playing shit, you're like, well, maybe he shouldn't have done it, or maybe, like, it can be so fickle and so back and forth because form comes into it a lot with United. It's never consistent, really. It's people have the kind of dips, and everyone at the moment is on a dip, apart from fucking Christian Eriksen and Johnny Evans. The combined age of 94 or something. Like, it's mad. It's absolutely mad.
Pace of like 2 of just fucking absolutely just looking the best players we have.
Hopefully that's going to change with this new INEOS revolution. And this is something that's been touched on, Shreyas, with INEOS signing new talents and potentials like Obi Martin and Kone. Signing young players with potential and a big value for the future is going to be part of this new revolution, according to Fabrizio Romano. Just another bit on it as well. Ajax and an unnamed German club was strongly interested in signing Sekou Kone, but Man United acted fast. United in the past were missing out on many opportunities for young talents like Casado, but this will not happen again with INEOS. So one of the very few positives at the club at the minute is Carrington and the new talents coming through in it.
Yeah, it definitely is. And for the first time, I would say in many years, it actually looks like these players would actually end up making the first team at some point and actually be given a chance to, make their case to take positions of players who are underperforming in this team. And when you look at Obi Martin, when you look at the Kone as well, they look very, very promising. And you've still got other players who are going to be coming through from the ranks as well. And it really helps us out because it prevents us from going into windows and splashing the cash like 60 to 80 million just in a single position. And even after spending that sort of money, we are still keeping our fingers crossed whether this play would work out or would not be able to work out for us. Maino has pretty much saved us like 100 million, in his position. Garnacho has saved us a lot of money. Ahmad has saved us a lot of money. So if these guys are actually able to step up and make a spot for themselves in these teams, I would say even phase out the older players in this team. I think that is what we really need at the moment. And I would say a similar case for Luke Shaw's position at left back as well. If Amas or whoever in that position can step up from the academy and actually make that spot their own, would help us saving a lot of cash in the upcoming windows.
Yeah. Oh God, man! I always when it gets like near the end of these shows, it feels like I've done a bit of a reflection or a council session on United, and I'm like, yeah, has that changed anything? Do I feel any more negative? Do I feel any more positive? Mainu needs resting. He's dropped off. Looks like he's burnt out. He does. To be fair, I've said it consistently. Even all these stats that get put out on social media that we're talking about, interceptions or what have you, he doesn't look himself on the ball when he gets it. There's been some nice patterns and stuff, but in comparison to the last year, it seems like everyone else started it. Casemiro's first year was unbelievable. Player of the season, arguably. So was Lisandro Martinez. Look at them both now. Awful. Both of them. Really, really awful. It's a curse. It's a United curse. I think that's the only logical thing that you can say about that, isn't it?
It's weird. There's only been like 2 players who have like come through a bad patch and had a bit of a redemption. Like Christian Eriksen had a bad season last season. I think we're all agreed he was done.
Yeah.
He was going. This season has looked excellent. Onana looked shaky at best last season, but this season I think has looked one of our better players. I think everybody else is kind of not recovered really, have they? Like they're the only 2 that I could think in this team have come back from adversity. Everybody else just seems to have gone and just sort of given up a little bit.
We touched on it yesterday, didn't we? That with Benny McCarthy coming out saying that Ten Hag's an unbelievable tactician, the work that he puts in, what we see on the training ground's unbelievable, and all this stuff. Like something's lost in translation. I don't know how they sort that, how they get that right, but something is, because it starts to make the press conferences make more sense. When you hear things Ten Hag when he talks about it, saying, "Oh no," and he's almost like looks super confident. It must be because of the training sessions that he's putting on and what he's seeing. And why he keeps playing Rashford, because he must be just murdering it in training.
The selections start to make sense when you're going, why is he still playing him? Because he's not doing it on the pitch. And in training, like you said, they must be excellent and they must be showing something. So obviously that's Ten Hag has to pick off games, but in training, that you're seeing them day in, day out, hour after hour, and then you're going to base his selection off 190 minutes. So it kind of makes sense. But then at the same time, you're like, they clearly can't cut it on the pitch when it comes to game day. Clearly something's going on there that they need to sort out.
There's some kind of block there.
I mean, people talking about Ancelotti and stuff in the chat. No. Ancelotti's not going to go from Real Madrid with Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Valverde, and the rest of the cast to Man United with this current setup at the minute. It's just never ever going to happen. So, yes, we should be talking about those kind of names, but we also have to be realistic. I think INEOS are probably looking more for a project manager as it stands, but we'll see what happens with that. Just before I head off, make sure you check out the members video that we dropped yesterday on Ruud van Nistelrooy if he was brought in as the interim manager. If you are a member, obviously you get access to that. If not, I'll be dropping for the public early next week. So please do check that out and let us know your thoughts and feelings. Me, Sam, Chivi, and Aaron recorded a After Dark last night, which is also for members, and you get access to that early as well. Really, really funny. I mean, it went everywhere, but it's fucking hilarious. Genuinely, one of the funniest shows that we've done, and it's everything but football. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out. Apart from that, have a wonderful Sunday, guys, I suppose. I'll be back later on at around 7 or 8 o'clock with you know a different kind of show rather than news. It'd be a bit more tactics focused or something. But yeah, we'll have something out later. So make sure you come and join us and drop us a follow on socials. I lost my word in then.
Just fell out of your mouth,
Right.
didn't it? Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my mouth just like stop talking. Yeah. Anyway, check us out on socials. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in a bit.
Peace.